And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Right, attention to roll call.
That's right, everybody. Good morning, 8:05 Eastern Time, 6:05 for me on my mountain time in the great state of Arizona right now, brother. Outstanding out here. It's beautiful. Come visit me in the RV. Listen, make sure you put your overtime slips at the end of the show. There's no cap in this show, all right? We're going to make $400,000 this year together. So what do you got, brother?
Yeah, we're probably going to do about 1,600 hours on here altogether. 1,600 hours a year on the podcast.
You got your rabbit shoes on?
Yeah, that's it, baby. I'm ready. That's the slippers. That's the high heels or slippers or party outfits. You know?
I figure you were podcasting in your underwear.
Yeah. Nah. Everyone always said that to me when I'm on the news. They're like, you're definitely in your underwear. Like, I'm not. Yeah, funny stuff, bro. I'm drinking in my Royal Crown coffee cup today. It's I have mushroom coffee today. Testing it out.
I had a couple times. It's a different taste, but it's they say it's good for you. So
yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of it, but I will see. We'll see what it does. We'll see how I feel after. I'll give the assessment. But yeah, a lot of crazy stuff yesterday. I mean, we're definitely going to talk about the 3 killed in a random stabbing attack in New York City from an emotionally disturbed person. We're going to get into that shortly. Before we do, I think, while we're on the topic of Staten Island and Staten Island bakeries, why don't we talk about Holterman's? You've been to Holterman's before?
Oh, absolutely. Holterman's is a famous icon for Staten Island. Actually, I gave a shout out about a week and a half ago to a sergeant I met in a police department outside Palm Springs called Cathedral City. So shout out to my buddy there and his team. Great people over there. Small department. I met some fantastic people, but right away, Holterman's really was put on the map because he texted me. He's like, dude, have you been to this place? I said, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna go to New York soon. I'm definitely stopping at this place. So shout out to them. I mean, they've really been put on the map. If some people don't know the story, so apparently Whoopi Goldberg, from The View, claims that she wasn't properly served at Holterman's. Turns out to be a complete lie. Are you surprised?
I mean, I'm not, because everything's always a lie, right? We see fake Nazi rallies, we see fake Nazi signs, we see fake racist hate mail. I don't get what the victimhood is. I don't get the necessity to lie to be the victim. I've been to Holterman's numerous times, and I came out of it empty-handed a lot because it's an old bakery. They open up in the morning. There's usually a line out there, especially if you're going to go Sunday mornings or whatever. There's lines out there. I wasn't really ever much of an early bird, especially if I'm off. And those are the times I'm going to run to the bakeries, like when I'm off, and I like to sleep in those days. And would never make it on time. I get there, everything, like all the shelves would be bare. So yeah, of course, Whoopi has to play a victim. Absolute joke. And their ratings are hurting, and now they're looking for conservative voices to like try to even out the insanity, because people are just sick of listening to the echo chamber. Just sick of it.
Shout out to the business owners at Holterman's Bakery. You've been forever in Staten Island. Everybody in Staten Island knows Holterman's Bakery. Everyone in Brooklyn knows that bakery. Everybody would go out there. Listen, they get crazy busy. They do a great job. And like you said, it is what it is. It's an old school bakery. You get there, there's nothing left. You're asked out, I guess. Anyway, Hassan, shout out to you. Good morning, brother. Hassan says, good morning, guys. You got to come down here with the RV. It's fun and nice. I'm contemplating moving to Canada. It's so much cleaner here. Good luck with Trudeau in Canada, brother. You definitely don't want to go there. It might even be worse in the U.S. right now when it comes to the liberalism disease. But yeah, Hassan, shout out to you, man. Hassan's here every day. Active guy out there doing his job. Be safe, brother. So what else we got here, man? What else?
I'm not going up north though. You could come down here. We're down. You're up. Yeah.
Well, now that you're in Florida, your blood definitely thinned out. You'd be freezing.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's play this video. I don't know how good this is. It's small. I apologize. This is just what's on the internet. So this is Whoopi talking about how Holderman's refused her because of her political views. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Welcome back. My birthday dessert today was one of my mom's favorites from when she was a kid. And she talked about these all the time. They're called Charlotte Russe. And it's a sponge cake with whipped cream and a cherry on top. Now, I should tell you, Charlotte Russe has no political leanings. And the place that made these refused to make them for me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What? Oh,
No. Let me explain. They said that their ovens had gone down, all kinds of stuff, but folks went and got them anyway, which is why I'm not telling you who made them. But it's can't be because I'm a woman, but perhaps they did not like my politics.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because you know what? Listen, this is my mother's celebration.
Yeah.
Pick
Amen.
these up and celebrate with me and my mom. Thank
It's a complete joke, dude. What do you think about that?
First of all, I'm glad that people weren't buying it and this was debunked right away. I mean, but you know what? Shame on her. She should be held accountable for that because she did give that business a hard time. And you know what? They were definitely nervous and fearing that their business could potentially get shut down. I mean, it's pretty scary for them to say that. Somebody puts here, who's EP? You guys look like you're in basic train. I know we're kind of matching today. We both got green shirts. We're ready for military service. I got a military shirt on now. Ron Lason says it too. I see you coordinating with outfits this morning, clearly by accident. So maybe we should start coordinating. What pants you wearing?
Call of Duty Green didn't get the memo. We're getting ready. We're gonna play Kaz's team tonight. And
I can't wait till Kaz jumps in, brother. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, that's absolutely ridiculous. First of all, how does she know what their political views are? Did she stop to speak to the owner? Did she speak to the kid at the counter? I bet the Holtmans are so view. It's, the kids work at the counter. They have no control what's going on there, what they're making. And like you said, they have a big rush and then they run out of stuff. But how does she know their political views?
Oh, she doesn't at all. I went to and I just heard it's closing down. And it's terrible because it's actually a spot I've been going to since it opened. Since they kind of renovated it, Richmond Town in Staten Island. They put oh man, why am I going to forget the name of the ice cream shop? But they put a homemade ice cream shop there in like one of these little booths that they have there. They renovated it, and it'll come to me. But
is that on Clark Avenue? I think I know what you're talking about.
There's one that this is the one that's on Richmond and Arctic Hill Road in Richmond Town. You know how they have the old historic Richmond Town, the old jails there.
Oh yeah.
House. So inside of there, they took. Damn, it's gonna bother me, but whatever. It's a homemade ice cream shop from Staten Island, and they make ice cream cakes or whatever.
I'm sure somebody here knows it.
They have an ice cream shop there, so they make like a rainbow cake ice cream, right? So like rainbow cookies are big in Staten Island, right? It's Italian. It's mainly an Italian community, right? Like you started out, a lot of Italians moved there, so Italian Irish. So, but rainbow cookies. They have this rainbow cookie ice cream. So we go there over the summer, young girls working at the counter. And, my daughter wanted rainbow cookie ice cream. So we're like, hey, can we get a rainbow cookie ice cream? She's like, I'm sorry, we ran out. Right now it's busy. The counter's busy. There's a million things going on. So now I'm standing there. Eggers. There you go. Almost done said Eggers. There you go. That's the one. Eggers. Thank you. So Eggers ice cream. We're there. We're at the counter. So she's like, we ran out, but they're crazy busy, right? There's a lot of young kids working at the thing. So next person comes up and she's like, says, I can't believe you guys are out of Eggers, but it's a different kid working at the counter now. I can't believe you guys are out of rainbow cookie ice cream. They're like, we're not out of rainbow cookie ice cream. Who told you that? So I was like, wait a minute. Wait. It wasn't because of my political leanings. The girl was confused. It's the same thing with Whoopi. Whoopi's just mad because they didn't stop everything and make it for her, And you probably got a young kid on the phone and they were like, we don't have it. And then somebody went in later and they actually did make more or they were confused about it. So the whole thing's a joke, man. It's just, it's stupidity. I don't think any bakery, even including Rocco's, who famously said we're not complying with anything that Eric Adams is going to enforce, or Bill de Blasio, I don't think they're going to deny anybody. I don't think they're going to deny anybody's service. It's not a political thing. I mean, it would be a great free advertisement for the business to be on The View, regardless whether people watch it or they don't watch it. I don't think Holterman's has a political leaning whatsoever, or any bakery for that matter. It's a joke. You want the food? Yeah, come here. It should be a unifier that we could talk about foods that we like, desserts that we like, bakeries that we like. This is America, Whoopi. I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah, they were probably doing her a favor. She looks like she could probably pass on that cake. So, I mean, but listen, whatever. It is what it is. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to actually try to expose this business and say that they don't know your political views. I mean, what is this? Is this class on implicit bias from that stuff that we learned in the police department? Absolutely ridiculous. I think, first of all, it backfired. I think, if anything, it's actually the best thing that happened to this business. Really put them, I mean, they're on the map already, right? For Staten Island, for New York City, but I think it really put them on the map for the country. Like I said, I'm getting calls from people in other parts of the country now that I'm traveling. They're like, hey, where is this place? Because when I want to go to New York, I'm going to support them. So that definitely backfired. Enough with that, Whoopi Goldberg. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to do that and say they don't, your political views, which I think she was also trying to, excuse me. I think she was also trying to make it a race issue, but she didn't want to just come out and say that. I think that's insane. Let the business just run. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think Sherry says it right here. Whoopi has a sense of entitlement issues, and if she doesn't get what she wants, then it's how she wants it. It becomes a poor me. I'm black, I'm female, they're racist, I'm a liberal, they're not, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what this is. It's all this DEI stuff. I'm black, I'm a female, they're racist. It's a sense of entitlement because she's a person in the public eye. She was an actress. She's a political commentator, not politics we align with, but she wanted to snap her fingers and wanted it there immediately. And obviously they didn't respond in that manner. I think it's ridiculous. What a joke.
No, yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible to smear a business for absolutely no reason, especially a business that really didn't do anything to you other than you're just mad you didn't get what you wanted. What was I going to do? Flip out on the young girl because she made a mistake? It is what it is. People make mistakes. Sometimes the businesses don't operate the way you want. I'm a big fan of Royal Crown or what the hell they call it, Penatico and Bay Ridge, and they actually have a few other spots that they opened up, and that name's escaping me as well. More on the South Shore of Staten Island. I'm a big fan of that bakery and their food, and I'm not gonna lie. There's times I went in there, and I had issues with the manager, and I'm like, it's not, and I don't take it personal. I'm just like, whatever, screw that guy. You know what I mean? When I see him, I say hello. If I see somebody else, I talk to them, but I still go there. I enjoy the food. It doesn't need to be this huge political thing, so I think it crazy. So let's get into this. I'm not sure if you guys seen this, the article about oh shit, I pulled up the wrong article. No, I got it. So how the broken juvenile justice system is failing in New York City.
Yep. Got a little statement there from Mr. Chief Michael Petri in there. Hassan, shout out to you, brother. Good morning. Thank you so much. I hope you're not in Canada yet. Coffee and donuts at the podcast. We could always use it. Good morning, guys. I want to be the first to make 500,000. Please let me drive you guys. Yeah. Eventually, hopefully we could grow that big. That would be a pleasure, Hassan. Well, you could leave the police department. You could drive John and myself. We'd actually have fun in the car and treat you like a human. And you could wear any shoes that you want, and you could have any couch you want, brother. You could have the red couch. You can have whatever you want. So, Hassan, shout out to you, man.
Listen, Hassan, you're going to make $500K if you work with us, only because we're going to give you good investment advice. All right?
Bitcoin.
Not going to be because you're robbing the taxpayers. Keeping on duty. So yeah. All right. Let's get into this article. So, kids in cuffs, how a broken juvenile system is failing New York City. Joe Marino and Jorge Fitzgibbon, right? So one of Big Apple's most notorious criminal this year has been arrested 24 times in less than 2 years, yet remains free to walk city streets because he's just 14 years old. That kid could be in khaki pants. That kid could be on the anti-crime team. 24 collars in 2 years. He's got more collars than the upper echelon of the NYPD. This is insane. This kid's got more arrests than them combined. 14 years old, 24 times. Wow, that is talent right there. That is talent that the police department hasn't signed that kid up. Ask him if he wants to do anti-crime. He wants to do CRT. It'd be great.
Put him in the criminal response team. Put him in today in the dream team.
That's it. He's got double the amount of arrests that Eric Adams. He's got a little bit more arrests than Tariq Shepard. He's doing good, this kid.
I think it's pretty funny. I got promoted with 5 years on the job, passed the test for 3 years. I was still serving the Marine Corps. I had 56 or maybe 57 arrests. They were all pickup. And John Shell's making fun of it. That's triple than what his bosses had. So it's pretty funny. Anyway, you got to laugh. But yeah. What I did notice about this article before you actually read it, which I think is funny, right? They're trying to deflect and say that the problematic issue with the juveniles is the raised age. So I just want to say raised age has nothing to do with a 14-year-old out there committing crime. Raised age applies to 16 and 17-year-olds. That's complete deflection. I just want to make that. I think it's important to note to actually put our eyes on and actually take note to.
Yeah, let's get into that. Yeah, again, it's always a deflection on the law and not on the politics itself. And listen, raise the age is a problem, and 100% is, and bail reform is a problem. But all those things get blamed on things that they're not responsible for. So it's like, and here you go. Here's an example of it. So another young thug, just 12 years old, has already been busted 6 times, but also roams the street at will after being cycled through a state juvenile justice system that is handcuffed by lax laws and inadequate resources. And there's nothing that the authorities can do about it. We are arresting juveniles at the highest level than we've ever seen before. NYPD Chief of Crime Control Strategies Mike LePetri told the Post. We are seeing juveniles commit 5, 6, 7 robberies. Most of them get dealt with under family court statutes. So true. Big problem I have here. And here's my problem. This is the problem I have with this. Now, all of a sudden, locking people up at the highest levels isn't a good thing anymore. So when we lock up adults at the highest levels, it's something to brag about and say how great New York City is, how great Eric Adams is doing, how great our partners in the DA's office is doing, how great our partnership with City Council, State Assembly. It's great. We're making more arrests than we ever made before. But when we get to kids now it's a problem.
So I have a problem with this article completely. I have a problem with the police department on their stance. So any active and retired cop from the NYPD, I can't speak for our other agencies out there right now. Maybe they could actually give us insight. But any active cop or retired cop from the NYPD knows that the family court system, the family court system was actually strict, much more strict than having a kid actually face a crime as an adult. Many times, and John, you probably saw that in your career also. If you had a kid that committed a robbery at 14 years old, they'd actually face more time, and they'd actually get a stricter sentence in the juvenile system than they would if they were charged, if it was a robbery in the first degree and they were charged as an adult. So this is complete deflection here. I think it's a complete lie. I think it's the position that the police department has taken. Raise the age is a huge problem, but raise the age does not affect the 14-year-old. Raised age has to do with 16 and 17-year-olds, right? Because 16, you were an adult, and raise the age, change that to 18 being an adult. 16 and 17-year-olds are now charged in the family court system. So I blame this on the police department. I think they're definitely trying to deflect the fact that they have a robbery pattern upward of somewhere of 20 some odd robberies, which was announced about a month ago. So I'm sure it's somewhere even higher in the vicinity of 42nd Street that has to do with illegal juvenile males. So now at this point, that's my question. Will MAGA Eric look to keep these families restored, or will he deport these families, right? Now we have a different stance from Eric Adams. That's the bottom line. The reality is the police department is not doing their job effectively. They are also stakeholders. They point and say stakeholders, but they're stakeholders in this also. So what is the police department doing out there? They have to constantly make an arrest. Why Why did this kid get out 14 times? Listen, I'm not blaming the police department completely, right? There's definitely something going on in the family court system, but the police department has to keep doing it, keep making these arrests, and they have to attack these illegal juvenile males that are right now targeting 42nd Street.
Yeah, well, listen, the police department's doing what they have to do. I'm not knocking the police department for making the numerous arrests over and over again. They're making the crimes are being committed. They're making the arrests. It's not their fault. But I got a question for now MAGA Eric, or as I like to call him, please pardon me, Eric Adams. Here's my question for you. You used to bodyguard for Mike Tyson, even though he was a convicted felon, and you would hang out with him. And so criminal association while you were on the job, and you didn't disclose that to the job. Actually, the same exact thing that you fired Sal Greco for. But let's pretend, let's just forget about this. This is my question for Eric, please pardon me, Adams. Here's my question for you. How would Mike Tyson fare? Because Mike G brings up a great point. Said Mike Tyson had 38 arrests by the time he was 13. It's true. And then what happened when he was 13? He went to a juvenile detention center, upstate New York, and he meets a man by the name of Customato, gets into a boxing program. If today Mike Tyson was born, Mike Tyson was 13 years old with 38 arrests, Mike Tyson never becomes Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson ends up dead or in jail for the rest of his life when he's an adult. Mike Tyson winds up committing a horrific act, a murder, something like this. He never gets reformed. He never becomes the Mike Tyson that he was supposed to be because New York City failed. New York City, actually, as bad as New York City was when Mike Tyson was a kid, burned out buildings, no food, horrible things going on, crack epidemic, all that. As bad as it was, the criminal justice system actually helped Mike Tyson. It brought him to be who he was. If it wasn't for Mike Tyson going into a detention center, Mike Tyson would never be Mike Tyson. And so what we've done, what the progressives in New York City have done, Eric Adams, self-proclaimed progressive, by the way, people like to make him a moderate, but he's not. He tells you every day. I mean, now he is. Post-indictment, Eric Adams is a moderate. Pre-indictment, Eric Adams was always a far-left progressive. And I'll bring in videos to show you that as well. But more importantly, does Mike Tyson become Mike Tyson today in this criminal justice system? I say absolutely not.
Spot on, brother. Spot on. Outstanding. Mikey G, thank you so much for the input. I agree. And that's my point. So the justice system, the justice system when it comes to juveniles below the age of 16 has not changed, right? Raise the age applies to 16 to 17-year-olds. 16, you were an adult prior to this raise the age legislation. Raise the age now 16, 17, you're still in the juvenile system. So that has not changed. Being arrested as juveniles, we know when kids are out of control, they're constantly in and out of the system, right? But exactly that. Spot on. Mike Tyson's life was shaped by meeting Customato and actually going to a juvenile detention center. So that's where we need the leadership of the NYPD. Again, I'm not holding the rank and file. The boots on the ground, I'm not holding them responsible. Their job is the crimes, the trends, the patterns, the clusters that are presented in front of them to target them and to do their job as they're paid and trained to do. And what are they paid and trained to do? Make arrests, continue to make arrests to stop the flow of crime and to allow the dichotomy between them and the justice system play out. It's the leadership of the NYPD to stand up and say, listen, here we have a kid. We've arrested this kid so many times. We need our justice system to actually send this kid to a juvenile center. We need him to be the next Mike Tyson that meets a Customato, that has his or her life shaped for the future. That's what I mean by holding people responsible. There is an art and a talent when you're in a leadership position to manage people below you and also manage people above you. And that's why I hold the leadership of the NYPD responsible and accountable and liable. They need to stand up and say, hey, listen, what is going on in our justice system is not working. We are doing our part. And not just say stakeholders, say we are doing our part. But you in the family court justice system, we need you to actually put these kids in a juvenile center and get sentenced. That's the only way that's going to shape their life. And use Mike Tyson as an analogy and use him to show. He's the showcase and a standard to show how a kid's life can completely change. Tom, shout out to you. I love it. He says, Eric, I like you a lot, but I have a challenge for you. One episode without anti-crime and Marines. Brother, I'll try. Ron Lason's keeping a tally. If you check it out, it's EDM is Eric Den Marines. His hashtag RV Life. So I'll try, brother. maybe I'll just keep mentioning RV Life.
Let me know when you do that, because I'm betting you that you're not going to be able to.
Hey, it looks like Juju's back.
Oh, he's back? Oh, welcome, Juju. Sadly, the kids in question don't have the complexion for protection. Otherwise, both John and Eric would be more concerned about their mental health. These MAGA loyalists only care about the unborn. Oh, wow, Juju. So, Juju, I'll give you a little story. I was arrested for graffiti that I never did. And I was arrested and charged with felony criminal mischief. And I had a probation officer for 6 months. So I guess I didn't have the complexion for protection there. Right. Today, I wouldn't even have got art class. I would have just got, nothing would have happened to me. They would have said, oh, you know what? Or maybe the cops would have just said, wow, this kid didn't do anything. Let's not arrest him and charge him with a felony and 11 years old. And then have my father beat my ass for like 6 months after that, you know? So I guess I didn't have the complexion, Juju. But,
AZ says, what's that?
No, I just wanted to welcome him back, everybody.
Oh, yeah. But AZ, I haven't seen you before. New friend, new listener to the podcast. Says, I spent time in juvie. You're so far off base here. Listen, this space is open. First Amendment speech. We appreciate opinions and perspectives that are alike and also that are in opposition. If you have an opinion and with anecdotal experience, please leave it in the chat. We'd love to hear your perspective, and we definitely will compromise and bring somewhere together and figure out what does work. So definitely give us your perspective.
Yeah, or come here, come on the show. You know, tell us about it. You know, hit us up in the DM. Go to www.thefinanceunfiltered.com. You want to come on here, talk about your life, your experience in juvie. Come in. I don't think we've said anything about. We haven't even really got into it. So please elaborate what you're talking about. So let's go a little further into this. So he says, you know, LePetri brags about, well, he doesn't brag. He's actually pointing out that it's a failure, right? It's a failure in the criminal justice system. It's not a failure on the part of the NYPD. The same way the high amount of arrest is not a failure on the part of the NYPD. It's a failure on the part of the emasculated criminal justice system. It's a failure on the part of the progressives in New York City. The progressives that Eric Adams was a cheerleader his whole police career, his whole time as a state senator, his whole time as a borough president, and almost 3 years into being a mayor until Donald Trump got elected. So let's continue. If they get arrested with a gun, we know a quarter of that population will be involved in a shooting in some way, which means a victim, which means a perpetrator, which means that they were at the scene as a witness. A quarter of that population, the chief said. So, I mean, that's a scary stat, and that's what you're hearing here. If you've been arrested with a gun, that means at some point, 1/4 of that population of people that get arrested with a gun will either be a victim, a perpetrator, or at the scene of a shooting. Right? So we're not helping anybody. We're not helping anybody by not holding people accountable. Why? Because there's no consequences right now, he added. We already had 15 juveniles murdered this year by a gun. I'm not talking about being murdered by a gunshot. It wasn't even close in prior years. The Empire States raised the age law, and controversial bail reform statutes have spawned a younger breed of criminals who dodge big boy treatment and instead getting thrown into an overwhelmed juvenile system that lacks the space, the resources, and the authority to keep them locked up, critics say. The city's 2 juvenile holding facilities are now dangerously overcrowded, and stringent laws prohibit cops from reviewing criminal records or hooking up young troublemakers with resources to help them. Meanwhile, LePetri said 12% of gun arrests this year involve suspects under 18, up from 7% in 2018 when Raise the Age first took effect. And while the NYPD has made 275 juvenile gun arrests in 2016, he said there already have been 438 this year. What do you think about that before we go further?
I think Rob Nappy nailed it right here just now. Rob Nappy says, good. From 1982 to 1986. Oh, he says, good AM. Good morning to you, brother. During my time as a cop, Detective Sergeant, I made his way to the ranks. Thank you so much for your service, brother. Involved in thousands of arrests. Kids feared going to Spofford or a light program for detention. It was a solid deterrent. Absolutely, 100%. That's the deal. They need to actually face the justice system and actually face doing time in a juvenile detention center. That was the pinnacle moment for Mike Tyson. That would be the pinnacle moment for these kids. I think that Chief LaPetri is completely deflecting the actual response for Eric Adams, pandering to Eric Adams. What he's saying is completely off base. Is raise the age a problem? Absolutely. But in this particular case, when we're talking about 14-year-olds, we're talking about juveniles that are actually lower than the age of the raise the age legislation, does not affect this at all. So which one is it? Because now he's saying that the jails, the juvenile system is overcrowded. Which one is it? We have bail reform and no one's going to jail, or the jails are overcrowded because they're actually doing time. So this is a complete controversial statement on its own. He's actually contrasting in his own statement. Very conflicting response that he made. Absolutely ridiculous. Try and deflect it. Really, it's just word salad. The bottom line is this. Raise the age does not affect a 14-year-old in the system. We've had that issue, and I think that's the greatest case to actually compare it to is Mike Tyson in comparison to now. It's the leadership. Chief LaPetri has to say, hey, we need the family court system to put these 14-year-old kids in jail. Put them in the system where they're actually going to face time so they can meet the next custom model. That's the bottom line. For him to say that raise the age is the problem, that's a complete lie. Yes, for 16 and 17-year-olds, not for 14-year-olds.
Yeah, Peking Kong says it's the drill rap culture that's creating this. Drill rap is a form of rap where kids go out on social media, they make raps about each other, beef rap, and instead of it just being them talking smack online and going back and forth at each other, it actually has consequences. Real terrible thing. I could see the drill rap being a good thing. Eric Adams actually spoke about this. He wanted to get drill rap pulled down online and ban free speech again. That was his idea. Completely ridiculous statement to say, we're just going to get rid of this form of music and art, instead of really honing in on the problem, which is the problem is that these kids are actually going ahead with their claims and what they're rapping about. I think competition in nature is a good thing. When we talk about basketball, we talk about football, we talk about volleyball, we talk about academics, we talk about debate. I think that drill rap could fall into a friendly competition, just like boxing, just like MMA. It could fall into something in that category, but there is a big problem with the family structure in America. I don't think the police department's going to solve that. I don't think that the criminal justice system's going to essentially solve that either. But again, I grew up facing consequences. I think a lot of people grew up facing consequences. I had the blessing and what do they say? The privilege. I had the privilege of having a father in my home, a man that loved me and raised me. That is a privilege. I always say that to everyone. People, when the whole privilege thing came out, I was like, yeah, you're right. I 100% was privileged. We had no money. We lived a very earnest life, but I grew up very privileged. I had two parents in my home that loved me. That is the ultimate privilege you could have in society. Unfortunately, a lot of kids don't have that, and I think that's a big problem, the breakdown of the family culture. And I don't think the criminal justice system's going to solve that. However, a consequence is a masculine aspect of society. Right? That is when we talk about the emasculation of society, a consequence is that father, right? I wasn't scared when I got arrested of what was going to happen to me. I wasn't even scared of going to juvenile hall, to be honest with you, because some of the schools I went to, it was like basically the same thing. Everybody hated me anyway. It was like, I wasn't worried. I was like, I had to go to school every day and like people always trying to fight me. And I'm like, okay. So I wasn't really worried about that. I was worried about the consequence of my father. And we can't replace that in society. But it is 100% a consequence at the end of the day would be a deterrent, a consequence. And along with programs, we have Cops and Kids Boxing. They just opened up another boxing gym. There needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of the PAL. Things like what happened with AK, I think it's AK or AZ. He says that Tyson was an anomaly. I don't know that he was, man. I think a lot of my friends, most of my family, like I've said, I think every male in my family has been arrested, at least in a holding cell, or if not, has served time. And I think that those consequences really help straighten out people in life. What type of life do you want to live? Do you want to be in and out of the criminal justice system? Do you want to surround yourself with these people, or do you want to be a productive member of society? And overall, we've removed that from New York City.
Hey, it looks like Juju's trying to have real conversations today. So shout out to you, Juju. Juju says, friendly reminder that the brain continues to develop into the mid to late 20s. Other developed nations deal with juvenile crime with this in mind. So that's great. We're talking about the symptoms here. We're talking about the problems, but we talk about the root causes and we talk about solutions. So what we're actually talking about right now is solutions. And ultimately what the solution is that kids need father figures. And Customato was that father figure who became the father to Mike Tyson, which is Mike Tyson was able to shape his life, right? Anytime someone talks about Customato, immediately you see that tear come to the eye because Customato became his father. Mike Tyson turned out to have extreme talent and became a champion. That doesn't mean every kid has to become a champion, but every kid needs a father figure. And you're right. You know what, John? You said it well. I lost my father during COVID. To this day, sometimes I can't delete my father's phone number. To this day, sometimes I just want to have a conversation with someone. That was always who I turned to, was my father, and I would go to dial his phone number. I still do it to this day. That was my confidant. So, yeah, I when you say privileged, people say, oh, you're a privileged white kid. I was poor, dude. I grew up poor. My bike was my brother's old bike, or whatever shirt I could get was my brother's shirt. He was 8 years older than me. But I had a father who loved me, who called me every day, even as an adult, called me several times. To this day, I remember my father would call me so much to the point sometimes like, Dad, I'm busy, I can't talk. Like, it was annoying. But those annoying things are what I miss. So you know what? When it comes to privilege for having a father, shout out to the fathers out there. If you're a father, you are so important in your kid's life. We got to be mentors to our kids. Absolutely. So that spot on, brother. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, and Patrick Donahue brings up a great point, and thank you for bringing this up because we haven't spoke about this in a long time, and it's really something that needs to be spoken about because there are millions and millions of dollars in taxpayers' fund going into a program known as Violence Interrupter Program. Right? It's been touted as a success. It's been touted as a success by Joe Biden, by Eric Adams, by Bill de Blasio, by the city council, by the state assembly, by Republicans. Everyone's saying what a great, great program is. And, we spoke about it a while back, and I think it's something we have to really do a breakdown on in a whole episode. So if anybody's out here on with real intricate knowledge of the violence intervention program and you're willing to talk with us either offline or online, we'd love to have you, please reach out to us at www.thefinestunfiltered.com because I don't believe we've done enough to expose the inadequacies of this program. Because although it's been touted as a success, every single place that the violence intervention program has been instituted in, crime has risen. Crime continues to rise. So what are we paying these people for? What do they do? How do they get paid? What are the metrics for success? How do we deem this program a success? What are those metrics? What are we saying that, okay, this is what the violence interventions have done. This is what crime has been since they were instituted. These are the successes that they had. These are the failures that they had. I don't believe we're tracking any of this properly. The whole program shrouded in mystery. We don't know how half these people make money. We don't know how they're selected. To me, it looks like a scheme to redistribute wealth. That's how I'm looking at it. I mean, I don't know enough about it to say it, but from what I'm seeing, what I've seen from it, what I've heard about it, I don't see any reason that New York City taxpayers should be funding this. We just talked about the lieutenant who made $400,000. She's a cop. She's providing a service to New York City. What exactly are these people doing? How are they going to work? How many hours do they at work? What are they doing while they're at work? How many days do they work? How many hours do they work a year? How much money are they making? What are their job responsibilities? We don't know any of it. So Patrick Donahue says, can someone let me know what time the violence interrupters start this week? I'm sorry. Violence interrupter stat is this week. When will this sham of a city-funded program be exposed for what it is? Democrat, left-leaning voting indoctrination. Yeah, Pat, I'd love to go to deep dive into this, as with you as well, where I'd love to deep dive into this. It's something that needs to stop. It's a waste of money. And when we're going to talk about the random knife attack and we're going to talk about the mental illness and the homelessness, but I think when you look at that violence intervention program, it's the same thing. It's just throwing tax dollars into a furnace and lighting them on fire because we don't know what this program's doing. We haven't seen it be successful. We don't even have the metrics for its success. We're not even measuring it. We're just funding it and funding it and funding it. Every more year, we're just throwing more and more money at it, and we're getting zero results. It's another highlight in the incompetence and the failure and the mismanagement of all of New York City elected officials, starting with the Bill de Blasio administration all the way through now. All complete, utter, disgusting failure. And you're 100%. I personally believe it's a sham. I don't believe it's been successful at all. I haven't seen one positive that's came from it. There are better uses for that money.
First of all, I think that this program is complete scoundrel, right? If the program was transparent and the program was actually successful, what do we know about this administration? They love press conferences. They love to sell you a product. They love to give you a story. They love to put stuff and be on the world stage and give you a media tour and tell you how great something is about an operation. So the fact that we don't hear any data, the fact that we don't hear a press conference, the fact that we don't hear publicly Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard, or Eric Adams actually speak out about this program just shows you it's a complete epic fail. Because if it was a success, they would be speaking about it and they would be selling it to you. So this has kind of been buried. We don't hear a lot of talk about this. I think this is a complete hit. I'm glad that Patrick Donahue, by the way, shout out. I read what you wrote about Marine Corps, Semper Fi, brother, RV life. Yeah, absolutely. I think Patrick Donahue nailed it. I think we need to explore this even deeper. Someone put on here that they believe a captain actually started this program. I'm not sure. I definitely love to look into this. But I think that we could just, without even getting the data, we know it's an epic fail because we don't hear about it. Eric Adams, believe me, Eric Adams would let you know if it's a success, if it was. He would remind you, he would change your perception and make you believe that this is the best thing since sliced bread. VSS Ventura, shout out to you, brother. I'm definitely getting coffee and donuts, $2. Perfect example of less is more with government. Yeah, absolutely. We want less government as possible. The complete intervention that we have here. Patrick Jordan, shout out to you. Briefing with the chief from Los Angeles County. They call them community ambassadors in Los Angeles. So yeah, we see the Democrats, they play this game on a national level. They're all playing the same game. Absolutely. How much they spend on these programs has become the measure of success. You're right. And that's what we're talking about here. How much funding is involved? Who's getting kickbacks to this? Patrick Jordan, you spot on. So in LA, they call it community ambassadors. For New York City, they call it violence interrupters. It's all the same program. It's Democratic funding. It definitely, I think it's complete scoundrel. I think that this program is unscrupulous, and I think it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people are on here about the drill rap too. So listen, I think rap started out as a battle, right? Break dance battles. I don't think there's anything wrong with competition. I agree. I don't like the language that they use, the words, the way they talk about killing each other senselessly. I don't like those words at all. But this is something that New York City could weaponize and use to stop the violence, right? You have these competitions. You put these kids up on a national stage. You get them big, and you set the boundaries. You will not talk about this. You're a talented rapper. You want to rap. You want to do drill rap. You could do it. We're not talking about shooting each other. We're not talking about killing each other. Or you're not talking about doing horrible things with women. Weaponize it. Make it part of the PAL system. Announce the winners each month, each year. I think that the drill rap, instead of saying we're going to shut down free speech, it's not, this isn't, he's not Mao Zedong, although he sometimes believes he is. Put this in your body if you want to work or eat or party or go do a drill rap or anything. we could weaponize the system. That there are ways to think outside the box. There are ways to get these kids to want to be good, to want to stay out of trouble. We just have to give them we have to incentivize them, right? The same way he incentivized the entire world to head for New York City, the same way he incentivized Lake and Riley's killers to come to the Roosevelt Hotel and give them all the money, the same way he incentivized them to put them on a plane with your money, all by your money. So he paid them to come to here. We put them up in the Roosevelt Hotel. Then he gave them their money to fly them to Georgia, right? I thought it was terrible to move migrants. I thought they should all stay where they are. Nobody should ever send them anywhere. But so then he took your tax money, put them on a plane to Georgia, and then they killed like Lake and Riley. The same way he incentivized those two murderers is the same way that he can incentivize kids to not be violent, to not use violence. So that's all I meant by that, is that we should use what's out there. We're not going to stop the culture totally, and we shouldn't want to. We shouldn't want to, right? I mean, men are traditionally aggressive. Men fight. Boys fight. How do we stop that? Martial arts, boxing, right? You weaponized it. You want to come to my school? You want to box? Right? Look at Mike Tyson. Perfect example. You want to box? You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. If you do, you're not coming here. You're not boxing. That's it. Weaponize it. Hone in. Heal them. Give them a reason to be good. There's things to think outside the box. We're not doing any of it. We're just lighting money on fire. The whatever the hell they call it, the violence intervention program is just another example of that.
Well said, brother. I think martial arts is the key. I honestly, I've been taking part in martial arts my whole life, and I can tell you this: I've been to boxing gyms, some fight gyms, some serious fight gyms. I mean, where the sparring is worse than actual fight. I've been to jiu-jitsu gyms all over the world. In the past 2 years, I've been to 48 different jiu-jitsu schools. I've done Krav Maga, all kinds of wrestling, all kinds of martial arts. And I can tell you this: I've never seen a fight actually break out in any martial arts school or boxing fight gym. It just doesn't happen. You get humbled very quick. It humbles you because there's a pecking order, and you don't need belts, to know who's who. There's a pecking order. It works itself out. When you go on the mat and you're wrestling or you're rolling around grappling, it exposes itself right away of the pecking order and who's in the hierarchy. And the same thing when you're sparring in the gym, it exposes itself right away, and it humbles everybody because when you take a punch in the chin a couple of times, it sure humbles you. A punch in the chest, or you're out there rolling with somebody and you get double-legged and tossed on the floor, or someone does judo and flips you over their back. That's happened to me. Or you're out there rolling around, someone chokes you out. You get humbled very quickly, and it makes you a better person. It makes you a humble person, and you don't want to go out there and fight. You don't have to prove yourself. You were training, and you already had to prove yourself. So it's better to lose in the gym and win in the streets than lose altogether. So, Sherry, shout out to you. She says, correct, John. 100% build character. Build on what you've got. Absolutely. We have to build character. We have to build men. This ideology that we have to emasculate men to make them nicer is absolutely wrong. I believe what Jordan Peterson says. Men should be animals. You should be monsters, but control it. Not be necessarily a nice person, a good person, because you choose to be a good person, because you have the strength to do that. We should be monsters inside and have the ability to protect ourselves and our families. Our kids. Tim Kenny says this best. He says his kids will never know the violence that he's capable of because the man that he's with his kids, because he can control himself and he wants to be this good person with his kids. That's what we should be. We should be masculine, especially young boys. You need to get that primal aggression out. But if you're not out there training and you haven't been pressure tested, then they have to ask these questions. They don't know. They have the insecurities of what they're actually capable of. And they're out there testing themselves. And with this whole social media platform, kids really don't face the same consequences that we used to have. I used to go play basketball as a kid, used to go to the handball court, and I knew, if you looked at someone funny, you end up in a fist fight. Plenty of times it happened. These kids don't have that today. They don't have that those same adverse consequences. So we need father figures. That's the bottom line. There's nothing stronger than a father figure. And that's why programs like the NYPD Explorers, that's a great program. Just has to be vetted properly. I'm all for that program. It has to be vetted properly. We saw what happened with that police officer and sexting to an internal affairs cop, but we need to vet it properly. We need kids going to the military. We need kids going to the police department, going to the fire department, blue collar stuff. We need masculine men. It creates strong men, and I believe it creates a better society.
I agree with you 100%. All the best men I know are dangerous, right? Isn't that what Jordan Peterson said? And I couldn't agree more. It's held true in my life. The best men that I know are very dangerous people. They're not people that you want to mess with, but they're people that are good. They're people that you could trust. Nothing wrong with being masculine, So, shout out to Jordan Peterson. I thought that was something that I always knew, and I just never heard it put into words. So let's continue on this article, and then we'll get into the horrific murder that took place yesterday in broad daylight in New York City. So cases reviewed by the Post expose the consequences. Baby-faced defendants who are cycled in and out of crowded youth holding facilities and a judicial system without power to do anything about it. The 14-year-old troublemaker is one egregious example of the failing system. Despite his tender age, he has built a rap sheet with nearly 24 arrests, primarily on robbery, grand larceny, and possession of stolen property charges, with some of his busts now sealed, sources said. His most recent arrest came on October 22nd when he was charged with a Brooklyn purse snatching incident less than 1 month after a separate robbery arrest elsewhere in the borough. The 12-year-old suspect was most recently pinched in the Bronx on November 9th and charged with gun possession, adding to a string of arrests that included assault and reckless endangerment busts. Yet both youngsters remain free after having cases heard in family court rather than adult court, sources said. They were both released without bail to their parents' custody, the sources added. And they're not alone. One 15-year-old has already been charged 4 times. Most recently, after Queens school safety agents found a black Cobra pistol inside his backpack after he got into a fight, sources said. Another underage thug, 17, has 9 arrests on his record, including 3 gunpoint robberies in Brooklyn, according to sources. Baby-faced gangbangers are even part of the migrant crime wave that has hit the city. The notorious Venezuelan street gang Tren de Aragua, which established a foothold in the 5 boroughs over the past 2 years, has spawned an offshoot crew of youngsters who call themselves Diablo de la 42, the Devils of 42nd Street, with members as young as 11. One teen terror in the young crew was busted nearly 12 times this year on a slew of robbery and assault charges, and was yet allowed to remain free at a tax-funded migrant shelter until last month. Only after his 11th bust in a knife-point robbery was he finally locked up at one of the juvenile detention centers. I mean, so what we're just reading, I don't think we have to finish this article. What we're reading is just failure and finger pointing.
You nailed it, brother. It's the blame game, right? That's what Michael Lepetri's doing. He's blaming the system, saying that the legislation of raise the age is the problem. And I think that's controversial. That's a controversial statement, and it's actually conflicting in his own statement, because he's saying that the problem is raise the age and no one's going to jail and being held accountable and no one's going to juvenile system. But then he's also saying that the juvenile system is overcrowded, which is why we can't put these 4-year-olds in. So which I think his statement is completely conflicting. I just think that he's trying to sell a word salad. It's a complete lie. I think it's more gaslighting. I think Michael Lepetri is trying to jump on board with the whole gaslighting team. That's what he's doing. Absolutely. What we need is father figures. We need systems in place where kids are mentored to become masculine men, and they need to be held accountable. I see what AZ was saying about abusers, but kids need to face actual time. It's unfortunate. I know you said you were putting the whole things like that. Those are discussions. Definitely, let us know what you think about that in the chat. But as far as that's another entity we need to also talk about to take care of. But kids need to face the actual arm of justice. And if they think that they're actually going to face time and not have their freedom, that's the fear a healthy fear that could actually have them do the right thing. There needs to be actual consequence. So I don't think this raise the age makes a difference. You know, as far as drill rap, I don't know about all that. I mean, drill rap, there was rap in the 80s. There's always been, gangster rap or ghetto rap, whichever you want to talk about. Is that really the contributing factor? I think this is the outlet kids have to actually have their arguments or their beef, however you want to say. But kids had beef on the handball courts. They had arguments in the street. They're doing it now on social media. There's always forms of communication, but I don't think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to the police department's response. It comes down to the response of the justice system, and we need actual father figures out there. So we have to actually vote better. We need to vote better choices in our justice system. But we spoke about it yesterday, and the problem is a lot of times in our justice system, these leftist Democrats are going unopposed, and there's no one in place that actually is law and order that has a chance of winning. So who are the people left to vote for, John? They're left to vote for these leftist Democrats. Or, as you said yesterday, which I totally agree, it comes down to voter apathy. Don't vote because you don't have someone there to vote for anyway. So then, again, what we're going to see is Alvin Bragg win again. We'll see these leftists in place, and it doesn't change anything. We have to vote better. We need the Republicans to put the right people in place that actually believe in the justice system. Someone that's actually getting campaign money that actually has a chance to win.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I don't want to go totally off topic. But I've been thinking about it a lot. I have no faith in the Republican Party, and I honestly think at this point we've seen the effects of grassroots activism across New York City, both during the time of the mandate, the fighting against Proposition 1, the waking up the voter to get out there and vote for Trump. I honestly think grassroots candidates, grassroots money, I think that is the wave of the future to straighten New York out, because other than that, we're just playing the good old boy system, and we're just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'll tell you what's going to happen. If we push the Republican Party a little bit, they'll gaslight you, and the mayoral run, the DA Alvin Bragg run, they'll get about 28% of the vote, because that's traditionally what's happened over the last 20 years. So, I mean, I think at this point there needs to be a whole remake-up of the political structure in New York City, New York State, and then we could start to hone in and fix these problems. I think when you look at this juvenile, like the juveniles that we just spoke about, it really is. Where are the violence interventors? What are we paying? Shouldn't this be the core mission right now? I mean, you're not. Let's face it. Come on, you're a 30-year-old lifelong criminal. You're a 40-year-old. You're not being. It's just not. The chances of you being rehabilitated are not great anymore. It's just not. Your chance is so far down. We like to talk about root causes. Why aren't our violence interventors working on the root cause? Before we get into this, I just want to read out a few comments from a former NYPD Inspector Ron Layson when we talk about the Violence Intervention Program. We got 438 people on here. If you guys could do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, reshare if you're on X or any of the social media platforms. I see we got a couple of people on Facebook today. I thought we were completely shadow banned on Facebook. So shout out to you guys. We'll be getting to your comments as well. But right before we do, just on the Violence Intervention Program, this is what Ron Layson had to say about it. There is no accountability. They share no information with the local commands. They give numbers of their contacts and what violence they prevented or interrupted, which is impossible to verify. There are no tangible metrics to assess these programs. They don't interact with the police and the community because they need to maintain their credibility with the players and gangbangers. I dealt with them in the Bronx and in Queens as the housing borough commander. They report only to MOCJ, Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. Eric says, complete waste of city money. It is. I mean, it's disturbing. It's honestly disturbing. What's more disturbing is there hasn't been a deep dive by anybody into this, and this has been going on for over 12, 13 years.
Welcome, Violet Lotus, new friend and listener to the podcast, says, watching from Boston, what New York has is coming everywhere soon. Absolutely. Well, actually, it's happening right now. So I'm traveling throughout the entire country, and I've John and myself and Sal Greco, we've built a network with cops from all over the country. And we see this happening in California. We see this happen in Arizona and all different states and different cities in this country. It's unfortunate, but it's become on a national level, this Democratic playbook. And this excuse for actually having a justice system. It's a criminal first society. It's a criminal first society when it comes to adults. It's a criminal society when it comes to juveniles. And I think ultimately the article that we actually read out today, really what it comes down to is this stance of not willing to deport illegals, not willing to work with fellow partners. I think it's complete deflection. I think that the problem that they're having with juveniles right now is really what's happening with these illegal juveniles, because we've always had a problem with gangs and youngsters 14 years old. I remember, we had a problem with the Jack Boys of the South Bronx for years, and this is way before raise the age. So it was the same thing. It was the same issues, but what we did was we tried and we spoke to family court and tried to make sure that these kids were going to get some time. And when they were facing time, that's the only way that we actually had any recourses. But they need father figures out there. That's absolutely – so these violence interrupters, they should be the father figures. If anything, it should be the father program. That's really what this should be, but we're not hearing any response. To me, the indication is an epic fail. Ron Layson, thank you so much for that input. I appreciate it, brother. This is factual input, and it's really spot on. And we see it's just an epic fail. If it was a success, believe me, Eric Adams would be wearing on his hat. He would be telling you that he is the father of the juveniles in New York City, right? You would hear that 100%. He would tell you he's the father of all these kids, so maybe he is. Who knows?
So Barbie Clark comes on by way of Facebook. He says, where is Charlene de Blasio's $800 million that went to mental health? It's a big problem when we talk about mental health and we talk about lighting money on fire. A lot of people continue to hone in on the $800 million. I'm going to tell you again, I've been saying it a long time. Yeah, it's wrong. Yeah, it should be investigated. So should every other year of New York City's budget that we continue to fund the program. Where's the money? Where's it going? You know what happened with Thrive New York when Eric Adams came in? Instead of him investigating it, no. Came out, he went on his blueprint. You go on the mayor's website and look it up, put on his blueprint, and he told you that they had problems with Thrive. He didn't tell you what the problems were. He didn't tell you how he was going to correct it. So what he was doing was renaming the program and actually giving it more money. So where's that money? We don't know. Where does it go to? What are the metrics for success? The not-for-profits that we're giving money to help with mental health and to homelessness, what exactly are they doing? They should be accountable to the New York City taxpayer. They should be telling us exactly what programs they're running. You should be open source data for you to look at and see what this looks like. The city should be looking at this. The failed comptroller, Brad Lander, should be looking at this. There should be restrictions on this. This should be public information. Yet all of this, like the violence intervention program, is shrouded in mystery. And as we continue to shovel money into the furnace, just continue to shovel money into the furnace, what do we see? More homelessness, more mental illness, right? And what are they going to do to solve it? They're going to tax you more. Now you got to pay $9 to drive in Manhattan, right? Now you're going to get a summons every time you go 21 miles an hour, right? Can't drive. What's the ultimate goal? Keep you on a bike, keep you dumb, keep you stupid. This is absolute waste of money. The whole program, all of the programs, the way our politicians are running New York City is failed. It needs to change immediately. This is a lot of money. We could do a lot of good things. This knife attack that happened in broad daylight is preventable. It's preventable.
I just want to say, I'm not sure if this is the Bobby Clark that I know. I assume it is because there's a picture of somebody playing baseball. Bobby Clark, who loves baseball, was an awesome FIO in PSA 4 on the Lower East Side. He did about 27 years on the job. If it's Bobby Clark, shout out to you, brother. If it's the Bobby Clark, I know. Awesome FIO. Definitely, I always talk about the FIOs. They do a great job. So, yeah, dude, I mean, this is where we're at right now in New York City. We had a problem with the former administration under former Mayor Bill de Blasio when it comes to money and private contracts. We have an even bigger problem right now under Eric Adams. The leadership of New York City is bringing us down this rabbit hole where the city is going to go into a financial crisis. I'm surprised that we are not at that point yet, if we are already. It's just absolutely terrible. It's a prison at this point. I don't even know who wants to live in New York City anymore. It's a prison. I mean, you drive to the left, you got a speed camera. You drive to the right, you got a red light camera. Now you're going to have congestion pricing, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're pushing you out of the car, and they're making you walk, take the subway, or ride your own bike. That's what they're doing. They're forcing the choices upon you. They're putting you in these predicaments where it's like, well, I can't, you're getting to the point where it's pretty tough, honestly, to drive less than 20 miles an hour in city streets. I mean, you can't even get anywhere. It's already bogged down with traffic. They've created these lanes that are so narrow to allow for pedestrians and bikes. It's just a miserable place to drive anyway. I mean, I've been to cities throughout the entire country. Yes, there's no city like New York City, of course. But I don't feel like a prisoner in other cities when I'm driving around with worrying about every single camera in comparison to New York City. It's a prison, honestly. They are forcing you out of the car. They're forcing you into other modes of transportation.
Yeah, it's wild. Juju keeps saying to look at the Bronx rises against gun violence. Highly suggest you guys do that. Google that. Google Bronx rises against gun violence, and then write arrested next to it, and see where your money's going and who we're paying and how these programs are directly, some of them appear to be directly involved in what they're supposedly against. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Juju. Everybody Google that. Check it out. Put Bronx rises against gun violence, arrested next to it. Google that. See what comes up. Let me know if you think that's a good use of your taxpayer money. You want to continue to fund that program. So here we go. Let's talk about let's talk about what happened last night, which is yesterday in the day, downtown Manhattan, I believe near the UN. It ended up where 3 people on New York City streets were randomly murdered by a homeless maniac. So the article comes out, Joe Marino, Allie Griffin, New York Post, 3rd victim of knife-wielding lunatic dies as attacker confesses to grisly New York City stabbing spree. The 3rd victim of the knife-wielding maniac who left a bloody trail across Manhattan in broad daylight stabbing spree Monday has died of her injuries as the brute confessed to the random killing, sources said. The 36-year-old woman, the alleged 3rd and final victim of the 51-year-old Raymond Rivera, succumbed to her injury in the hospitals Monday evening, sources told the Post. Right? We're spending $100 million a year. Why are we not dealing with this guy? Why are we not getting him the services he needs or keeping him off the street and away from New York City taxpayers? Here's the 2 knives that he used from a crime scene from the bloody stabbing spree. Here's where it started out. Here are the 3. West 19th and 8th Street was the first murder. East 42nd and 1st Avenue was the 3rd murder, and the 2nd murder happened at East 30th Street and FDR Promenade. So this random maniac, look where he traveled across New York City. Starts out on the west side, makes his way over to the FDR on the east side, kills 2 more people, and he's finally arrested at East 46th Street and 1st Avenue. I don't even have words. Where were the drones? How did the 2nd and 3rd victim happen? How did he get from here all the way over here? I mean, I know it's hard to get people, but I don't know. I know it's hard to get people. I know, especially in New York City, there's hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people you're interacting with. But in the modern day of age, we're touting all this technology. How weren't we able to identify him in the first 10 minutes and nab him before murder 2 happens? I don't know.
Also, how do we have Daniel Penny fighting for his life and fighting for his freedom when we have a case like this? I mean, we could show the comparison here. Daniel Penny, in my eyes, Daniel Penny is a hero because his adversary on that particular fateful day could have been a killer also, could have took the lives of several. but Daniel Penny stood in as a good Samaritan, and Daniel Penny is now fighting for his freedom. If we had good Samaritans out there, maybe this mentally ill, emotionally disturbed perpetrator could have been stopped. Also, if we had a larger police department out there doing intrusive police work, that someone would see that someone is mentally ill and needs to actually have a legal street encounter. But I'm sure, I would put my money on it, that we don't have enough cops out there right now. We know it. We have a diminished police department, and their job is not to be intrusive unless you're wearing khaki pants or some of these other units. But the overwhelming majority are now working doing omnipresence. But really, I think the greatest comparison at this point is Daniel Penny. We need more Daniel Pennys out there who are good Samaritans that will help and step in and help protect society. Daniel Penny is a hero. That's the bottom line. He should not be fighting for his freedom, because that adversary, which I believe his name was Jordan, right?
Jordan Neely.
Jordan Neely, that was it, right? Jordan Neely. Of course, it left my memory for a second, but Jordan Neely could have been in the same position as this particular emotionally disturbed perpetrator. So Daniel Penny should not be fighting for freedom. Absolutely not. Daniel Penny was a hero.
100%. And when we review those videos, and again, I don't speak to anybody related to any of these cases as they're active or ongoing, because I don't want to put anybody in a peculiar situation. Even people that I'm close family friends with and that I love dearly. So I won't. And if I do speak to them, I'll never speak to them about the job. You know, same with Eric. Like I won't put any. I don't talk to them about the job. I don't want to know. You know, I don't want to know what you know. It doesn't matter to me. But I guarantee that when you look at the videos, when you run the videos, there are going to be dozens of people on New York City streets that know something's wrong, witnessed these murders, could have done something to intervene, could have stopped him, could have followed him, and they didn't. And you know what you could call that? You could call that the Daniel Penny effect. I guarantee when you watch those videos, you will see the Daniel Penny effect. When your news reporters are out there, you shouldn't just be looking for the videos you shouldn't just be looking for videos of the murder. You should be looking for videos of him walking around or traveling, taking the train, however he ended up. And what you're going to see is that dozens and dozens and dozens of people knew that this individual was dangerous, knew he was scary, reasonably feared for their lives or the lives of others, and they did nothing. And you could call it the Daniel Penny effect, because that's exactly what it is. It's an excellent point, Eric. I agree with you 100%. And so let's hear what the NYPD had to say about this. Let's take a deep dive into this before we get out of here. We're about an hour and 12 minutes in. We're talking about the broad daylight murder of 3 people in New York City randomly. Complete failure in public safety, a completely avoidable tragedy. This is absolutely disgusting. And to the families out there, you should be not. My heart goes out to you, but you should be a voice to make sure that this never happens again. You should be out there suing the city that sits there and spends your money to put up flyers telling you how crime's down, when we all know it's not. Your family was murdered. Your family member was murdered viciously for absolutely no reason, and the city of New York failed you. City of New York completely failed you. The mayor, the New York City Police Department, the City of Homeless Services, the City of Mental Health, they failed you. They failed your family. This is disgusting.
John, before you play it, it is an epic fail, and I love the fact that you said the mayor failed them, because what did the mayor say during the West End Day Parade? He said, it was only one nut. Well, guess what? Here's one nut, and look how much damage one nut did. One nut took the lives of 3 separate people that are independent from each other, that spanned across the entire city from east to west, right? At some point, and you nailed it, brother, when we talk about the Daniel Penny effect, there are people that saw and had a bird's eye view, and they saw this particular adversary. They saw this person of interest. They saw behavioral indicators that weren't right, and people did not want to be intrusive, because people do not want to be the next Daniel Penny. And I'm sure it's possible that there were police officers also that saw someone mentally ill and did not make that encounter, because we know the outcome when police officers have an interaction with mentally ill, and they force them to the hospital, you know what happens, John? They get a substantiated civilian complaint. That's what happens. When you force someone against your will, you get a substantiated complaint and sometimes charges from the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Another attack on police officers to hinder them from doing their job. We have all these layers and these factors that are hurting public safety. Get it together, Mayor. Get it together, police department. Get it together, justice system. The police department, we need good leadership to stand up and say, we have a problem with our entire system. Our police officers are doing their job, but they need more support. We have a problem with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. We have a problem that Daniel Penny is fighting for their life, but they're not saying that. They're not saying that. One nut. Remember that, John. One nut in the West Indian Parade, and here's one nut again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're doing a great job. Crime's down. We're doing a great job. Crime's down. So let's hear what a great job they're doing. Let's hear what the New York City mayor and the New York City Police Department has to say.
I intentionally asked Officer Garvey to stand with us today. 19 years in the department and has not lost his desire to protect the public. And today we have 3 innocent New Yorkers who's going about their lives with a victim of a terrible, terrible assault. 2 lost their lives. 1 is fighting for her life. It is a clear example of the criminal justice system, mental health system that continues to fail New Yorkers. And it is troubling that we're standing here today in a day that brings a great level of difficulty and pain to the city. 3 New Yorkers, unprovoked attacks that left us searching for answers on how something like this could happen. But I want to thank the everyday New Yorker who notified Officer Garvey and told him what he observed. When he saw the assault, he followed the individual involved and gave the information to Officer Garvey, who took quick action and was able to apprehend the person who we believe is a suspect. This investigation is going to continue to unfold, and we want New Yorkers to know that we are not looking for any additional suspects at this time. We believe we have someone in custody, and we are not looking for any additional suspects. Our hearts goes out to the families, goes out to other New Yorkers who observed such a terrible action. We will keep them in our prayer. But again, I want to thank that New Yorker who saw something, who did something. And because of that, I believe because of the quick actions of Officer Garvey, we have saved the lives of other New Yorkers who could have been the victim of this assault.
Before we go further, Eric, so he's saying that one person didn't have the Daniel Penny effect and actually followed and called 911. What's wrong with this photo to you?
Well, first of all, where is Tom Donlan? Where is Tom Donlan? And I thought, listen, honestly, personally, I could care less. Shout out to this cop right here, fine officer right here who did his job as he's paid and trained to do. Turns out he's also a delegate for the unit. He's actually on patrol wearing a gun belt. So shout out to him. But I could care. I know some people are commenting about the beard. I could care less about the beard. I don't care. But it's just funny how one day John Shell talks about how we're going old school. And now it's not a big deal because they want to use, shout out to this officer. But they're not putting you there because they think you did a great job, which you did. They're putting you there because they're using you as a recruitment tool right now. Because if there was any other day of the week, they would be actually giving you discipline for that beard. But I could care less. Shout out to you for doing your great job. But where's Tom Donlan in this picture? Kaz Daughtry appears to be the police commissioner to me. And Tariq Shepard is playing the deputy commissioner of public information again. So I guess we're back to the old roles. Where is Tom Donlan?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah, but 100% shout out to Police Officer Garvey. Not your fault what happened at all. You did your job. You did what you were paid and trained to do. We're talking about overall failures in the criminal justice system, and we're talking about the debacle of this NYPD administration, this mayoral administration, who's now going to highlight your good work to try to cover up for their failures. And they're going to point to your good work and the rest of the department's great work to cover up for their inadequacies, their mismanagement, their incompetence. So you see, you don't see the police commissioner, Tom Donilon, the interim, who Eric Adams on this tweet made sure he labeled the word interim. Let's see how the days and weeks turn out. I believe Tom Donilon's time is very short. I believe we may be hours away from seeing him no longer be the interim police commissioner, and we're going to see the appointment of the fourth police commissioner under Eric Adams, which will be the first time in history that a one-term and a mayor's one term 4 police commissioners were appointed. I think 3 is a failure. I think 2 is a failure. Barring any medical health scares or anything like that. I think having 2 police commissioners in one mayoral term is a failure. Zero consistency. The turnover is ridiculous. You see Tariq Shepard all the way on the opposite side of Tom Donilon. We all know what happened there. And you see the operational police commissioner, Kaz Daughtry, standing there. And again, they're going to tout 3 people being murdered on New York City streets in broad daylight for doing absolutely nothing but other than traveling and going about their day as a success. As a success in his administration, as a success in the New York City Police Department. They should all have their heads hung in shame right now. Not you, officer. They should.
I just want to say, John, I've gotten some blowback from some people on X who said, "Oh, the police department didn't do their job. This guy was out there and he was able to kill 3 different people." The rank and file we support. The boots on the ground are doing their job as paid and trained to do. Shout out to this police officer. This police officer is a veteran police officer that represents the veterans of the New York City Police Department. He represents the iconic police department that we know. Shout out to him for doing his job. He should be Man of the Year by the Hispanic Society from these other fraternal societies of the NYPD. Not Kaz Daughtry, not Eric Adams, not Jeffrey Madry, John Shell, leadership that can benefit them. This cop should be Man of the Year because he did his job as he's paid and trained to do. The leadership here is an epic fail. How are we touting this as a victory? This is not a victory. We had someone that was able to move east and west throughout the entire city and get away with killing 3 people. Fortunately, this person had a knife, but if they had access to a firearm, it could have been even more deadly. I feel so sorry for these families. Again, we spoke about the Daniel Penny effect. Eric Adams is a complete failure. To him, it's just one nut. How do we know? He told us that when it came to the West Indian Parade. And again, it's just one nut. But no, there's 3 lives and 3 families, and the entire city is affected by this because there's people now that do not want to come and travel to the city and enjoy tourism because they see a horrendous incident just like this. And this happened not in the 7-5 precinct, not in the 4-4 precinct, right? Not in these heavy precincts of propensity for a high amount of violence. This happened in the 17th precinct in a good area, in a place where tourists come through the entire city. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is a shame this has happened in New York.
Yeah, Martha Riley says there's no mental health money available, and the millions given out to the de Blasio administration and his lovely wife right before they left office seem to have left with them. Well, Martha, look at the budget for New York City. There's $1 billion allocated for mental health, and there's $1 billion allocated for homelessness. Where's the money? It's every year. It's every year in New York City budget. $1 billion a year is going out every fiscal year. Every fiscal year. Where is that money? Where is it being used? Why is there no money? These are the questions that we're not allowed to ask, right? We're not allowed to ask. Where are they? I don't know. So, immediately, I'm shocked he didn't walk out to his, and he may have. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he walked out to his walkout music. Maybe he should have put the signs behind him how crime is down so he could remind all of us crime's actually down. But we're going to show you the crime numbers in Manhattan after this. So, and then you let us know if crime's actually down because crime's actually surpassed where we were in 2002, pre-Dim, pre-Macari, right? It's gonna crime numbers have surpassed that. So here we go. Let's go further.
Now turn it over to I want to now turn it over to Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlin, and then our Chief of Detectives will give you a preliminary and up-to-date on the investigation, what we have thus far.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the NYPD, I want to express our deepest sympathy to the 3 people attacked this morning. The senseless violence should never happen, but I want to thank Officer Garvey for his proactive approach to policing, and that is what we stress. We have reactive, but also proactive, and Officer Garvey represents what we've been telling the officers for many, many, many years. But through the swift work of the NYPD officers, this attacker is in custody right now. At this time, there are no other outstanding suspects. I want to thank our 17th and 10th Precinct Patrol officers for their quick and effective response to these incidents. And the detective squads are both commands for what will become a complete and thorough investigation. I also want to thank the members of the public who called 911 and who jumped into action to help their fellow New Yorkers. And finally, thank you to Mayor Adams for his ongoing public support. The mayor is here with us today because he truly cares about the people in New York City, and he understands that public safety is the foundation of everything we do here. Now, we are just beginning to sort through the violence this morning, but New Yorkers should know the NYPD will always be there with our city, and we will continue to fight for safety and security of every New Yorker. For some additional details on these incidents, I'll turn it over to Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny. Thank you.
Eric, you got anything on Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlin?
Before I do, I just want to say shout out to Ron Layson. This is the comment of the day. I agree. 3rd tier. We always talk about the 3 tiers of this police department. This is the 3rd tier right here. 3rd tier, blue pants. I'm putting this in. General population with last name of Garvey. Will he be promoted to detective for this act? Great question, Ron Layson. He's general population. Well, sort of. He's a delegate, so I don't know how he's treated. I don't know how he's he's in with the PBA, but he is general population on patrol. He's the 3rd tier. Here is a guy that should be promoted to detective. Some of the promotions we've seen have been absolutely ridiculous, very self-serving. People that are in these fraternal organizations that never did a day of police work. 19 years on the job. He's a delegate, still on patrol with a gun belt. His name is Garvey. Someone put in here means rough peace. Said he's a born-again evangelical. I don't know too much about the religion, but shout out to this officer. Seems like a great person, man. He should be promoted. So, but Tom Donlin, I think that his speech was pretty much useless. He's obviously not in the game. He knows it. Why is he still doing this job? Here's someone else that is self-serving. He said that people jumped into action. How did they jump into action? Because someone called 911? Are you kidding me? No one jumped into action. There could have been Daniel Pennies of the world, but everyone's afraid to jump into action because they don't want to be fighting for their freedom. I think that was, I don't even know what that response was. Completely useless.
Yeah, I think, you just see Donlin sitting there again. He's been the cheerleader for Eric Adams in this administration. He was cheerleading for the sheriff, right after a huge corruption scandal had broke out. He met him one time for 5 minutes, and he was attesting to the integrity that he has and all of the experience. When I think anybody that watched that city council testimony could see the exact opposite. It's just crazy times, man. Crazy times. This is just honestly, this is the worst administration I've ever seen in my lifetime. This is the worst mayoral NYPD administration I've ever seen. Disgusting what they're even doing here. It's absolutely disgusting. Let's go further.
Good afternoon. The information I'm about to give to you is preliminary, as our investigation is still ongoing. I'm going to discuss the 3 stabbing incidents that occurred this morning in the 10th, 13th, 17th precincts here in Manhattan. These random attacks left 2 innocent victims dead and another one fighting for her life. I will not be releasing the victims' names at this time. We're still waiting to notify their families. We do have a suspect in custody, and we are not looking for any other perpetrators at this time. Incident number 1 occurs in the confines of the 10th precinct. Today, at 8:22 a.m. in front of 444 West 19th Street. Our victim is a male Hispanic, 36 years old. He's standing in front of a construction site where he is employed, when without warning, he is stabbed in the abdomen. The assault appears to be unprovoked at this time. The perpetrator fled southbound on 9th Avenue. Our victim was removed to Bellevue Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 8:50 in the morning. Witnesses stated that the perpetrator was a male, light-skinned, in his 60s with a beard. He was wearing a gray shirt and a dark-colored ski hat. Witnesses described the knife as a kitchen knife. Approximately 2 hours later, incident number 2 occurs at 10:27 a.m. at 500 East 30th Street and the East River by the Old Water Club. A male, Asian, 68 years old, who was fishing at the time of the attack, was stabbed multiple times throughout the body. A 911 caller rings the bell and police respond to the location. Unfortunately, our victim is removed to Bellevue Hospital, where he's pronounced dead. 30 minutes later, after this incident, our third and final attack occurs at 10:55 a.m. at 42nd Street and 1st Avenue, right by the UN. Our third victim is described as a female black, 36 years old. She is stabbed multiple times throughout her body. She is brought to Cornell Medical Center, where she is currently in critical condition. A short time later, at 46th Street and 1st Avenue, near the Turkish mission to the UN, police at the scene are alerted by a witness that a possible perpetrator who had just committed a robbery was walking in the area. This male was taken into custody by 17th Precinct Patrol. They recovered 2 large kitchen knives that are covered in blood. His clothing is also covered in blood. This person of interest was brought back to the 10th Precinct Station House for processing. He's a male Hispanic, 51 years old. He appears to be undomiciled. He has 8 prior arrests, last being for a grand larceny, October of this year. Thank you.
All right. Obviously, we still got a lot of work to do with this, but we'll take just a couple of questions. I'll start here on the left. Joe.
Chief, do we have any information as to were words exchanged prior to these interactions with these individuals?
As of right now, these attacks seem to be unprovoked, that he just walked up to them and began to attack them with the knives.
Chief, is it clear, maybe speaking yourself today, can you elaborate on the bail system movement? Was he out on bail, on a bail eligible case or non-bail eligible case?
First, I want to acknowledge the presence of Councilman Powers and Councilman Boucher. These both impact their areas. We are still looking over his record, but there's a real question on why he was on the street. It's preliminary now, but he was sentenced a few months ago, and there's some real questions that we need to look at on why he was on the street, and he has some severe mental health issues that should have been examined, and that's what we're looking at as part of the investigation.
Before we go further, Eric, what are your thoughts?
Again, I want to reiterate that the Civilian Complaint Review Board is a huge problem and a hurdle in policing doing their job when it comes to actually mentally ill across the entire city. We've seen it numerous times. Emergency Services Unit is suffering from it badly because of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. When you force someone against their will, someone who's emotionally disturbed, and bring them to the hospital because that's what's necessary for that person to get help, and also because they're a threat to others in the city, and many times the emergency service unit members and also the police officers themselves that actually respond to the jobs, or if they're trying to be intrusive, are getting substantiated complaints that actually lead to department charges, which could lead to actual termination according to the matrix, the disciplinary matrix. So this is a huge problem. We need the leaders of the NYPD and also Eric Adams to have the Civilian Complaint Review Board back off, because the cops cannot be intrusive when it comes to the mentally ill across the city. That's a huge problem, a huge hurdle. We have a lot of layers going on here. We have the Daniel Penny effect, but we also have police officers that cannot be intrusive when it comes to mentally ill, right? Because of this, of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. It's one thing if you get summoned to a 911 call and you're forced to handle that job. But how are you going to be intrusive with mentally ill if you're facing department charges from the Civilian Complaint Review Board? This is a huge problem.
Dude, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. This is a fucking failure. Excuse me. This is absolutely wrong, dude. It's like, I understand. Listen, I understand that you're not going to prevent. You're not going to prevent some maniac from just coming up and doing something to someone. It can happen anywhere at any time. I understand that. I'm not saying that, yeah, should this person have been in jail? Yeah, and we're going to get into that. Should this person have been into an institution? Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to show you their history. We'll walk you through that. But let's just say the person has no history. Let's say we know nothing about this person. The person, he just snaps one day. Has his fallen down moment. He snaps. He kills someone on New York City streets randomly. How does he get from the west side of Manhattan to the east side of Manhattan? Bones 1999 says, was this guy TOSing on the train with those crazy knives to travel that distance? And what TOSing is he theft of service? Is he going down in transit, not paying his fare with the knives on him, and getting on the train traveling? More than likely, I'm going to say, yeah, that's what happened. More than likely, I'm going to say that's what happened. Or he got on a bus, or he got on something. He used some type of public transportation with those knives. How was he not apprehended walking around Manhattan? Was he even trying to blend in? Was he? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So now, okay, he gets away. He gets away the first time. He does it again. We have an opportunity to get him again. Still nothing. Give a shout out to the New Yorker that followed him. I do too. Whoever that New Yorker is, you, my friend, are a hero. You're an American hero. Again, how many New Yorkers walked past this individual, knew that he was a danger to themselves, knew that he was a danger to others, feared for their lives, feared for the lives of others? Where were the police department drones? Where was the police department? Where were they, dude? And again, even the scenario that they're highlighting with this cop, and the cop did a great job, and I'm not knocking the cop, but even that scenario, it was one random New Yorker that had to alert the police. They should have been on top of it. I don't understand. I thought these drones, we were going to press a button and the drones were going to go right to the location, and they were going to find this guy. How were we not able to stop this, the second and the third murder? How was it not preventable at that point? It was 100% preventable. It was 100% preventable the first incident because of the guy's history, because of the 7 or 8 arrests, felony arrests he had this year in 2024. It was 100% preventable, the first murder. But then we're going to say, how don't we stop the second and the third? How don't we stop?
Well, the bottom line is this: is because we're not being intrusive. We're not doing intrusive police work, and our good Samaritans, our citizens, are not being intrusive. Everyone's staying in their own space because no one wants to actually face the justice system, right? It's a criminal-first society. It's hands-off when it comes to the mentally ill. And I'm telling you right now, when I said that before, the Civilian Complaint Review Board is a huge problem and has a huge stake in this right now. I don't know if anybody on this chat is from emergency services, but if you know anyone that's an emergency service unit right now, they'll tell you their fear right now is these jobs with the mentally ill, with the emotionally disturbed persons, because the emergency service unit, the lieutenants, the sergeants in these units, they're getting substantiated complaints from the CCRB. They're facing department charges because they forced someone against their will when they were summoned by a cop to help a cop in the emergency services unit is transporting some mentally ill person to the hospital against their will to help the citizens of the city. They're getting department charges. Lou Turco knows exactly what I was talking about. I was telling him as the LBA president that he has to get his finger on this, right? The answer was not to handle these situations, try to avoid them. That's not the answer. The answer is to actually lead and to make real change. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. You need to actually make change because look at the outcome here. Does it matter if he was in jail or not? That's a whole separate issue. That's something else. But the police department has a job themselves to keep people safe by doing intrusive police work. Maybe Michael Kemper was actually right. Maybe he wasn't telling a lie when he testified to New York City Council, said approximately 97% of fare evaders are not frisked or searched, because clearly he's got several knives on him and was able to go east to west across the city. And you can see his picture. You can see he looks completely off. I'm sure he was obtuse and stuck out like a sore thumb, right? I always taught my cops, what is your baseline? What is normal behavior? What does it look like for that day. And I'm sure that this particular mentally ill, emotionally disturbed perpetrator stuck out like a sore thumb. And there's cops that saw him, and there's actually civilians that saw him, and we're not intrusive. And the bottom line also is we have a diminished police department that is out there more for presence. Police officers are not going to do intrusive police work when it comes to mentally ill. They're going to evade that person because they face more liability than they do actually getting awarded for it. This cop right here that did his job, who's not in this picture anymore, the cop with the beard, shout out to you. Outstanding. Those are the cops that we need. Masculine men. He's a real cop. He should be Man of the Year from the Hispanic Society and these other fraternal organizations, not Eric Adams, who's had failed legislation, total epic fail. That cop should be Man of the Year. But we see everything's upside down because it's not self-serving. That's the bottom line. We need the Civilian Complaint Review Board to receive some real oppression from the police department when it comes to incidents like this. For the answer to be, well, he should have been in jail, that's not the answer, right? We've always had these problems for years, even without bail reform, right? Of actually having someone who's mentally ill get actually sentenced. That's a discussion for another day. The bottom line is we need intrusive police work, and we need intrusive Good Samaritans.
Yeah, but Tom Donilon just said that this was proactive police work. He just told you that, Eric. He just said it. Tom Joyce just pointed out. The PC calls this proactive policing. It's the furthest thing from proactive policing. And forget the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I don't even care about the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I don't care about City Council. I'm talking solely about the New York City Police Department right now. Was the first one preventable on the New York City Police Department's part? No, that was a failure on the criminal justice system. The second and the third person who were murdered was a failure on the New York City Police Department. The first person wasn't on them, right? This is supposedly the best version of the New York City Police Department we've ever seen. In my opinion, it's the worst that I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. It's the worst I've ever seen. I've never seen such a highlight in incompetence. And I honestly, if you follow this murderer, and there will be so many videos of this murderer, this insane individual walking around Manhattan, murdering people, probably utilizing our transit system. And you are just going to see failure after failure after failure after failure after failure after failure on the part of the New York City Police Department. You're going to see dozens and dozens of failures in the New York City Police Department and the system they currently have in place and how they're patrolling and how they're utilizing resources. Failure after failure. I just got my hands on a report about this All Out and a real study in it, and we'll read through it, we'll go through it, and maybe we'll do a whole episode on it because I think that I think the entirety of the New York City Police Department needs to be revamped at this point. This is a problem with response times, right? So the answer isn't to just send drones to stop a response time. Where was the drone to get and even follow this guy? This stems into numerous failures on the part of the public safety apparatus in New York City. Numerous. I honestly, I can't believe that. I can't believe it.
So John, the drones are only able to save lives when it comes to subway surfers. The drones are only able to go out and for Shark Week. But what about a situation like this? It's absolutely spot on. We hear about the drones first responder program. Where were the drones? Where were the drones following this particular mentally ill perpetrator to advise units to respond? And for the PC to call this proactive policing, I think was laughable. There's nothing proactive about it. I'm not saying anything bad about this cop. He did his job as he's paid and trained to do. He responded, but this is not proactive. I agree with you. The first homicide, there's not much the police department can do. It's completely random. It's very tough to stop. It's scary. And my heart goes out to these families. And it goes out to the entire city. It's shameful. But for him to actually travel, being mentally ill and completely disturbed, looking in like he did in that picture. Let's be honest. It looks like he has that 1,000-yard stare. For him to actually travel east to west in the entire city, in a city of millions of people, and actually be able to carry out 2 more homicides in the same day within a span of 30 minutes of each other is shameful. It just shows this a complete failure on this entire administration. The police department, the leadership is an epic fail. They're supposed to stand up. Tom Donilon should say, we failed. We failed this city. We lost 3 lives. Thank God this police officer did his job, but there was nothing proactive about it. We need the Civilian Complaint Review Board to back off. We're going to do our job. We don't care what the Civilian Complaint Review Board says. We're going to do our job. We need to stand up for the Daniel Pennies of the world. We need to be intrusive out there. We need Americans to step in. We need New Yorkers to step in. For this mentally ill perpetrator to actually travel across the city is shameful. It's a disgrace, epic fail by the New York City Police Department, and to deflect this to bail reform is shameful and disgusting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's finish this press conference and then finish this up.
ABC.
Yeah, so the witness is a cab driver. He witnesses the third attack of the female. He believed it to be a robbery. He didn't know that she was stabbed. So he began to follow her, thinking that he was a robbery suspect. The cab driver, yes.
And the purple backpack that said 46 his purse, is that the victim's backpack? Is that like
That's part of our investigation.
Can you talk about when Officer Garvey stepped in?
What was the question again?
Just when you started noticing something unusual and stepped in.
I just heard a commotion from where I was, stepped outside, heard what people were saying, and reacted. No comment on that.
Chief, were there any robbery attempts on any of the victims involved?
No, like I said, we're sorting through additional witness statements and video, but at this time, no words exchanged, no property taken, just attacked and stabbed viciously.
No, let the chief walk you through.
Once he was alerted that this perpetrator was possibly involved in a crime, thinking that maybe it was a robbery, he detained him. And obviously, at this point, information's coming over the radio. The detective squad gets involved. We start putting the pieces together to realize it's part of the three attacks that have taken place that morning.
Yeah, hold on. And I think that we cannot overemphasize. Here, this officer made an apprehension of a person that took the life of two individuals, and he didn't know what he had. He responded, and we cannot overemphasize how much when these officers come to the scene of a crime or someone tells them that someone carried out a violent act, these officers respond to that act. And, it just goes to show you after 19 years of service, there's still a commitment to ensure that the people of this city are safe. And when you don't know what you are responding to, you have an individual who had those weapons, and this officer put himself in harm's way to make sure he could stop others from being harmed. If Officer Garvey was not there, these random acts of violence, this person conceivably would have continued those random acts of violence. So he saved the lives of fellow New Yorkers.
Two more. Dean.
Does the suspect say anything in regards to any statements when he was arrested? Do you have any idea what his motivations might have been?
Not at this time.
James.
Thank you. The last stabbing was by the UN. There was a line of diplomatic vehicles, maybe a motorcade. Can you talk any more about the Secret Service's involvement in this situation?
I can't speak for another agency. I can just speak to what the NYPD did in this case. I know there were other people out on the scene that assisted, but at this time, I can't speak to what the Secret Service may have done.
Are any of the victims dignitaries at this time? Do we know that?
They are not.
All right, last question.
The last two places where the attacks happened are pretty close, and you have evidence that he walked. Do we know how he got from 19th Street over? And also, was he just walking the knives out, or did he conceal them and pull them out?
From the video that we see as of right now, we have video of him with the knives out. But as at this point, our investigation is preliminary. It appears that he was traveling by foot.
All right, thank you, everybody.
You heard that, right? You heard that. Walking with the knives out. Walking with the knives out.
That's insane. You know what? Usually we don't give Juju so much airtime, but today we had some real conversation. But here we go. Here's some more trolling. Yet the city is facing the pandemic of NYPD overtime. I'm so glad that you mentioned Juju. because we have a lieutenant that made over $400,000 who sits in an office at one police plaza. Why is the overtime not going to the police officers out there with the boots on the ground that could do intrusive police work? So you know what? You're right, Juju. We do have a pandemic of NYPD overtime that's misused, misutilized, and completely abused by your administration at the upper echelon of the police department, by the puppet master himself, standing right back there right now, Jeffrey Madry, who's created all these monsters. We have someone who made over $400,000 doing administrative work in his office. I've heard all these things about her being sick. God bless her. I wish her well. But the bottom line is this money could be used for boots on the ground to stop some murderous, mentally ill, emotionally disturbed perpetrator that actually walked through the city with their knives out. We all heard that movie Knives Out, right? Knives Out, walking with the knives out. Don't you think that someone saw that? Right? There could have been several burly, masculine men to hit this person over the head with a chair and overcome the resistance and save lives that day. But no one wants to be the next Daniel Penny. We could have had police officers out there doing intrusive police work. For Tom Donilon to say this was proactive police work and taught this as a celebration is absolutely ridiculous. Real leadership would be transparent and saying, hey, we failed. This is an epic failure, and we don't want this to happen again. But you've heard it from Eric Adams before. It's only one nut. And look how many lives one nut took in one day.
It's an absolute failure, dude. This whole administration's disgusting. Walking with knives out. I mean, what's the response time on that in New York City? What should it be? How long should a cop be there? Minute someone's walking, a mentally deranged man has a knife in his hand. What should the response time be in New York City? I'm going to say right now, someone calls 911. How many 911 calls were made? I want to know. How many 911 calls were made about this individual walking with a knife? That's what we need to know. And then we need to know what the response time is on it immediately. This is an all-around failure, dude. All-around failure. Criminal justice system, New York City Police Department, mental health services, homeless services, complete, utter failure all the way around.
Where were the khaki pants? Where were the khaki pants? Where were the heroes of the city? Where were they? Where were they? They work in Manhattan. Where were they? They weren't working at this time during the day?
Crazy. So the rumor is, I don't know how true that is, but the rumor is that this individual burglarized the night prior an Ace Hardware. And guess where he got the knives and the gloves from? Supposedly from the burglary that he committed the night prior. Like I said, I believe that it was 8 arrests that he had, if I'm not mistaken. He had 8 arrests this year, if I'm not mistaken. And, what we're going to see. So he had 8 prior arrests in New York, 7 prior felony charges in New York City. He was released from custody exactly 1 month ago. He was rearrested that day, then released. He just killed 3 people in broad daylight. That's coming out from End Wokeness. I mean, arrested that day? He was rearrested that day and released. And then he killed 3 people. Oh, I got what he's saying. What he's saying is that he was arrested 1 month ago after his release, and on the same day of his release, he was rearrested again. I understand. Out committing crimes again in New York City street. Rumor is he did a burglary the night before. That's where this equipment comes from, these gloves. That's why there's so many of them right there.
Ron Layson said it here. Here's something else that's obtuse that doesn't fit the baseline that people definitely saw and no one intervened. Ron Layson says not just walking with knives out, but with blood-stained clothes. Absolutely. Spot on. You're absolutely right. That's a great indicator. You see someone walk with blood-stained clothes. You see someone that has that 1,000-yard stare that doesn't look right. I mean, look, he looks completely mentally ill. He looks off. He looks obtuse. You see him walk and knives out. I mean, come on. But you know what? God forbid somebody took him down to be the next Daniel Penny, because he's mentally ill and they need to look out for him. I mean, everything could go wrong, right? But he took 3 lives. That's the bottom line. 3 lives, which means 3 families. There's so many people affected by this. The entire city is affected by it. This span throughout the entire city. This is absolutely disgraceful. It's disgusting. I mean, think about it. This is just, it's really takes a toll on the city. It takes a toll on for tourism, everything. It's horrible. I feel sorry for these families. Epic fail. And for the police department to say, great job, proactive police, really? Great job? So if you kill 10 people and eventually it's a great job, when is it not a great job? When is it? When do we actually say this is an epic fail and we need to make change right now? But not one person in the police department will say that. Every leader in the NYPD is an epic failure. Every one of them. I've heard great things about Joe Kenny. Failure too. He's not saying this is an epic fail. It is. I think the only one that was honest at the end, right? I always said he's a car salesman, is Michael Kemper. Approximately 97% of people that were fare evaders were not first to search. I think that's the reality. That's the real answer.
Yeah, the absolute insanity. So Reza Chowdhury, great follow on X. He's actually one of my favorite follows. Him and Sam Antar. They've been deep diving into the spending and the misuse of taxpayers' fund as it relates to politicians, how they've secretly been spending our money. If you guys aren't following Sam Antar from White Collar Fraud or Reza Chowdhury, you are truly missing out on seeing a lot of the corruption that's happening in New York City, from elected officials in New York City Council all the way up to the state. Reza Chowdhury says, oh, look, another murder in Manhattan. The elected officials representing this location are New York City Councilman Eric Botcher, Democrat. New York State Assembly, Tony Simone, Democrat. New York State Senate, Brad Holdeman Sigel, Democrat, Work and Family Party. Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, Democrat. Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, Democrat. U.S. House of Representatives, Gerald Nadler, Democrat, also Work and Families parties. So we see something's going on with Democrats in New York, right? Wherever they are, crime rises, right? It's less safe. So Reza Chowdhury also says, update, the maniac responsible for this murder then murdered a 60-year-old man on 30th Street a little later and then stabbed a woman in Tudor City. They're attempting to save her life, but it doesn't look good. Fortunately, she did pass away later on last night, right as we put the episode out that we're going to speak about it. The maniac resides at Bellevue's men's homeless shelter, harbored by the nonprofit industrial complex and the inane laws that do not hold criminals accountable for their actions. 2019, New York City's biggest shelter is plagued by violence, often carried out by repeat offenders who remain in the system. A trove of incident reports reveals. So Reza's pointing out to the failed facility, that we should have known that violence was going to come from this homeless shelter, because in 2019, there was a report about how much violence was coming from this homeless shelter. So great job on your part, Reza. Thank you for always, you and Sam, for always pointing out the inadequacies of New York City's elected officials.
I love Reza Chowdhury. His stuff, him and Sam Antar do a great job of utilizing New York City's own NYPD numbers to actually show the reflection of the downfall of New York City. Crime is way down. Crime is weighed down by perception, by what Eric Adams and his administration is putting out there, which is a complete lie. Crime, in fact, is up. And actually, John just gave it to you earlier in the episode and told you that pre-Eric Dim and John McCarry to the NYPD, which was January 2004, that the numbers in comparison are much higher now in comparison to 2002. And think about the great strides that we came from in 2004, where we had Operation Impact and the mass impact that we made on crime in specific areas and throughout the entire city, where we actually curbed crime, utilized the stop, question, possibly first. A fantastic tool doing intrusive police work. Was it misused and abused by the upper echelon of the police department? Yes. But was it a good tool, an amazing tool that we should go back to? 1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you could see it clear as day here. 2006, this is violent crime in Manhattan. 2005 to 2024, you see 2006 crime was high, right? By 2009, 2010, crime's all the way on the floor. 2014, all the way on the floor. What's significant about 2014 is Bill de Blasio. You see crime start to rise. Then you actually see it tail off again. Around 2017, 2018, crime still at manageable low numbers in Manhattan. And then you basically see the inception of, in 2020, crime rises. There's a spike in crime. People worry. People aren't feeling safe. Falls back a little. And then 2021, 2022, Eric Adams, what do you see? Boom. Crime is straight up. There's a lowering of very little low in crime, which we said would be temporary for their games that they've been playing, not only with the misreporting of crime numbers and the misrepresentation of crime, but now here we are, violent crime after a horrific few weeks, Razor writes, for crime with no rain. Violent crime in Manhattan is on pace to blow past 2022 highs and reach levels have not seen in the great borough of Manhattan since at least 2002. Today's 3 murders is just a drop in the bucket of failed leadership and policies. You know, congratulations to Mark Levine and to the Manhattan DA. Without your committed leadership and vision for safety and fairness, this degradation of the borough would not be possible. So, real bleak picture. So just remember this when Eric Adams talks to you and he tells you crime's down, when he tells you tourism's up. And remember all the people that you know that told you that they're never going to Manhattan again to travel. Because I have hundreds of them in my head, you know, hundreds of them. I went to Manhattan to go see my grandson who's trading on the floor on Wall Street. And we went out to lunch in broad daylight and we got robbed by firearms. By men on scooters who jumped off, pointed firearms us, and robbed us all of our Rolex watches. Middle of the day, downtown Manhattan. Story after story like that, I could tell you, of people who told me, I'm never going there again. It's my last trip to Manhattan. People who live there, I don't care if I ever go there again. You know, a sad state of affairs from where we were to where we are.
And again, you know, thank you for Juju earlier for pointing that out about overtime. But I'd like to know how a lieutenant has almost 2,000 hours of overtime in a year working in an administrative position at One Police Plaza. How many hours of overtime did that police officer Garvey get? How many hours of overtime did he get actually putting his boots on the ground? I'm sure that there was a cap for him, maybe a little more because he's a delegate. I don't know. But the bottom line is I'm sure there was a cap for him. I'm sure that they were actually making sure he didn't get too much overtime because we have a lieutenant who needs 2,000 hours overtime at One Police Plaza. The boots on the ground should be no cap on the boots on the ground doing intrusive police work to stop some homicidal maniac, mentally ill, emotionally disturbed perpetrator that's walking through the city with knives out and bloodstained. How did we not see that? Epic fail, epic fail, epic fail. There's no way to tout that and say that's a victory and a celebration by making that arrest. That person's walking around bloodstained. Millions of people saw that person with knives out and people did not intervene. You know what? I'm getting some hate right now on X. Oh, what did you want people to do? He's got knives. You know what? People have to do something. We can't just let him walk through the city. We need to alert the police. We need to stop him. We need intrusive police work. We need some masculine men. We need to stop him. We can't. We're just going to let him go out there on a murderous spree. This is insane.
Yeah, I'm not telling anyone to run and go stop a maniac with 2 knives and go get into a physical confrontation with him. We're saying 911 should have been called, and I guarantee it was. And I guarantee there's a failure in the response time. And that's why this person wasn't immediately apprehended after the first time. So this is what you're seeing. You're seeing a diminished, emasculated police department. You're seeing a diminished, emasculated criminal justice system. Here's your result. You have a maniac that could walk around Manhattan with 2 knives out and bloodstained clothes in broad daylight and murder 3 people on opposite ends of Manhattan. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just confused because I don't know. Because, like, you know, John Shell says my career is horrible and I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about because I worked in the 1-2-3 and I worked in the 6-6 and I worked here and I worked there. Maybe I just don't know. But in my head, I'm pretty damn sure that if that happened, we would have apprehended the perpetrator right away.
Hey, John, thank God. Thank God Manhattan's a gun-free zone, right? Thank God, because if someone was carrying that firearm, they could have actually put this savage animal down and saved the lives of others. But no, it's a gun-free zone. So thank God. What we need now is maybe we can have those pretty signs that say gun-free zone. Maybe we can have signs throughout the city that say knife-free zone. And maybe we can have a little note. If you're mentally ill, please do not hold a knife in hand, and please do not hurt anyone. maybe they'll actually pay attention to signs. I hear signs work. That's what I heard from this administration. I don't know. Did you hear the same thing?
Oh yeah, no, gun-free signs definitely work. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Someone saying 2A all day. Yeah, 100%. Listen, I agree. Everyone's like, oh, we don't want firearms in Manhattan. Like, no. You're a law-abiding citizen. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to protect yourself. No reason why you shouldn't be able to ride the train in New York City. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to sit on a bus stop. If you're a law-abiding gun owner, why shouldn't you be able to? I think Trump said he wants to do reciprocity for gun licenses. So if you have a gun license in Florida, then you'd be able to travel to places like New York City, and it'd be legal. And I don't see anything wrong with it. Do you?
No, not at all. I always told you. I recommend. I'm not saying you have to. I recommend concealed carry, but we need people carrying firearms. How do you take someone down with a knife? A good guy with a gun. That's the bottom line. But it's a gun-free zone. So we need signs that say knife-free zone. In a city of 8 million people, there has to be some good, obliging citizens with a firearm to stop some homicidal maniac. The bottom line is we have a diminished police department. We have a broken system in New York City. We have an epic fail when it comes to leadership of this administration. We need good Samaritans out there. But unfortunately, if someone did take them down with a firearm, they might be the next Daniel Penny. So it's hard to say. Do we have to wait for someone to get killed before someone can actually take action? I'm getting some hate information right now that Daniel Penny is not the same case, that this was just an erratic person on the subway in comparison to some homicidal maniac. No, Daniel Penny stopped someone from being a homicidal maniac. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and Juju says, oh, if you love the police, as some of you claim, then you shouldn't be openly calling for people to be armed in a city of 8 million residents. Again, how much crime are legal gun owners responsible for on New York City streets? How much crime are they responsible for? That's what I want to know. Let's do that comparison to people who are carrying illegal firearms who don't have licenses on New York City streets. Let's make the comparison. And then tell me why legal gun owners shouldn't be allowed to carry their guns while they're sitting on a bus stop, while they travel on a bus, on a train, on a ferry, why they can't go in certain sensitive areas. I never read about that in the Second Amendment. I never read about sensitive areas or you couldn't travel on. I never read about that at all. I don't see an armed society as a safe society. Where I live now, I mean, crime is literally non-existent, and everyone carries a gun. I mean, basically everybody you pass is carrying it. I see firearms everywhere. Thank the Lord, I have not seen any type of gun violence here whatsoever. And I can't say the same for people in New York City who are carrying illegal firearms. They are shooting each other up. Looks like the Wild West. It's starting to look like Tombstone in New York City. It's starting to look like, we haven't figured out how to manage things yet. We haven't really had a police department yet. We haven't really figured out how to stop the corruption. We haven't really figured things out yet. We're still working in a city that was working very well. Working very well before Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams came into power. So, absolute insanity. We're about 2 hours and 7 minutes in. Real quick, I just want to read something from Sam Antar, and then let's start to close this out. Exposed, New York's crime statistics are a political fairy tale. Two alternative worlds, different trends for the same set of crime numbers. Stats versus NYPD collapse. Violent crime 2023. State claims 8.7 decrease. NYPD claims 2.4% increase. Property crimes. State claims 9% increase. NYPD claims 1.1% decrease. Public officials cherry-pick numbers from contradicting data sets to suit their political narratives. Hochul transforms a 0.7% increase in violent crime into 7.3% decrease. Adams tweets, New York City got even safer while hiding 23.4% crime surge under his watch. Bragg claims minus 5% drop, but buries Manhattan's 25.6% explosion under his watch. Reality check. The politicians, three versions of reality, One truth. They're all cooking the books to hide soaring crime rates from New Yorkers. Full expose on how Hochul, Adams, and Bragg manipulate crime stats. 6-minute read. White collar fraud. I retweeted this. Go over to Sam Antar, at Sam Antar. You could read the whole thing, whitecollarfraud.com. Great. This isn't Sam's numbers. This isn't his narrative. This is the numbers. And he's showing you the numbers, and he's telling you how they're being manipulated. He's giving you the numbers. They're giving you the lies.
Shout out to Sam Antar. Really does a great job. I think we have to highlight that. Sam Antar, Razor Chattery, check them out on social media. Both of them do a great job of using New York City NYPD's actual numbers to actually show the reflection of New York City. And Sam Antar did a great job of showing the comparisons of New York City and New York State. Just a complete epic fail by New York City and New York State government. It's really destroyed New York being the iconic center of the world for economics, for tourism. It's not a place people want to go to anymore. It's a shame. I mean, pre-pandemic, we heard people talking about, I can't wait to go to New York. It's a complete different ball of wax right now. So shout out to our friends and listeners on the podcast here that support us. We support you, building this network. Shout out to the trolls. You have a place here also. First Amendment speech is honored in this space. We honor real conversations, those in minds alike and those in opposition, and polarize this podcast. You know what? The truth hurts others and lies hurt yourself. So, Juju, you have to live with yourself. Keep living these lies and playing these games of trolls. It must be exhausting having all these fake accounts, but that's okay. We'll face opposition anytime. Listen, we appreciate it. Tomorrow, we are going to be down. We'll be back Thursday, 8:05 Eastern Time. And, of course, for me, I'll be on the West Coast. So let's have more real discussions. Probably on Friday, what we'll do is another roundtable. So if you have any ideas, anything you want to be discussed, bring it up, unless some pressing news comes about, and we'll have our finger on it. Of course, we'll have a finger on the pulse. I appreciate all the interactions today and the encounters. Let's keep the city safe. Let's actually talk about the real issues and not pretend that they're not there. Remember, Eric Adams said it's only one nut. Look what one nut can do across an entire city and actually take the lives of 3 people. This is a complete tragedy. Absolutely disgusting. It hurts me. It's so sad to see and so sad to hear. Thank God it stopped. But that, according to Eric Adams and his administration, what we heard prior from Kaz Daughtry, about incidents on the subway, according to their theory, this is a success. There's probably 12 million people in the city as we speak while tourism is going on during the day and people working. It's more substantial than actually live there. So according to their numbers, percentage-wise, it would be a success. That's not a success at all. 3 people being killed in the city during daylight and someone able to navigate throughout the entire city is an epic fail. God forbid that was a firearm, how much damage they could do. Please be aware, situational awareness, call 911, and let's be honest about what's going on here. These drones are not the answer. It's real cops doing real police work. That's the answer.
100%. Yeah. So just so we know what public safety is under the Eric Adams administration, a broad daylight shooting on a parade route, mass shooting where individuals are killed. That was a success. Hats off to the team. And here we go again. A man in broad daylight walking around murdering people in New York City streets. Another success in public safety, according to Eric Adams. So absolutely complete failure. A couple of things have got shifted around on New York City's plans tomorrow. So we don't know if there will be an announcement tomorrow related to possibly appointing a new police commissioner. We're hearing rumors that Ben Tucker may be appointed. We will be down tomorrow. Should anything break, we'll try to come to you live at that point. But we will be back on Thursday, definitely 08:05 live. And we appreciate you all for tuning in. We appreciate you guys always being here. We even appreciate the opposition. Keep it coming. Let's continue to get out there, have these conversations. I think, and it's important that we all weigh in. And I think that we could all agree that regardless how we feel about the situations, we could do much better than what we're doing. So shout out to you guys. We'll be back Thursday live, 8:05. Find us Unfiltered. We'll be back at you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.